I know this is time in the afternoon, that's sort of, food coma, sleep time for everybody, so I'm going to try to keep this a little animated and fun for everybody here. So thank you for coming. Today I'm going to be talking to you about user experience for Internet of Things. My name is Robson, and I'm a user experience designer at Red Hat, and I've been in user experience for about 8 years now. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about user experience with Internet of Things. I think this is kind of an exciting new area in the industry, and it's it's a place where we really need to learn more and experiment as we go along. But there are some best practices that we can use. So today I'm going to talk about what is the Internet of Things, and I know there's a lot of discussion about Internet of Things as far as the technologies, and so I want to kind of take a different stance here. I want to start thinking about what does this mean for our users, and what is the benefit that we're really providing to the customer or to the user. So we'll talk about user impact of Internet of Things and how you can create good Internet of Things experiences when you're creating solutions for your companies. And we'll also, at the end, talk a little bit about how to track success, because this is a new industry. One of the most important things is just tracking and recording as we go along so that we can understand how well we're doing and improve from there. So what is the Internet of Things? The basic principle of this is that any objects in our lives can be connected to create a more informed and collaborative experience between humans and the objects in their lives. And this can be anything from your car scheduling your oil change for you, your refrigerator telling you when you're out of milk, to even your garden telling you about its soil content and when it needs to be watered. So this can reach anything. This can reach any object that might not currently be connected, but could be connected in the future and could talk to other devices and to users and humans. So the core of this, the core that I want you to take away, is the more informed and collaborative experience. This is why we're doing this. This is why it is so cool. It's because at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for us to really harness all the devices and the data that we gather to create more intelligent interactions with our users. So how do you do this? Well, we need to be aware of what's really going to happen here. We need to be aware of what this really means. So devices have been growing. Year after year, the amount of devices that we have grows. But with the advent of the Internet of Things, we're talking about exponential growth. Huge, huge growth in the number of devices in our lives. With more devices comes more interactions. The more devices you have, the more things you need to work with, right? The more things you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So let's step back and think about that for a minute. Let's just say you had 100 devices in your life. Even if those 100 devices were performing 99% of the time, that means at any point in time, you have one device in your life that's malfunctioning and needs your attention. I'm sure some of you feel like this already. The phone isn't working, something over there isn't working. You walk around your house and things need to be fixed. But with the exponential growth of devices, this increases so much. And we need to be aware that now human time is the weak point. With all these devices, we can't ask our users to fix everything. We can't ask our users to continually pay attention to these devices because there's too many of them. We don't have that bandwidth. We have too many other things to do. So human time is the weak point, especially as we move into Internet of Things. So let's look at a user experience example in the consumer industry right now for Internet of Things. So X10 is a company that's been in home automation nearly from the beginning. They've been around for a little while. And then over on the left here, we have, you're right, we have SmartThings. So X10 came into the industry. They, were creating a lot of devices. They were creating an experience. And that experience was oriented at tinkerers. This experience was oriented at people that were willing to invest the effort. So users of X10 are probably early adopters. These are people that are going to be willing to understand what these devices do, how they connect to each other, to build up their home automation, to do it in a very customized way. And that's good for a certain segment of the market, right? There are people who are willing to do this, and X10 has been very successful. And so that is still a user experience. That's an experience that those users get, and that's the experience that they're looking for. But this doesn't scale well when you're really moving into a much more global audience, an audience that doesn't have the time to specialize in everything that they do throughout their day. So new companies such as SmartThings are coming onto the market, and you can tell the difference just looking here between the websites. X10 is talking about home gadgets. They drop you right into the gadgets. They don't tell you anything about the experience, whereas SmartThings is selling you an experience. They're selling you a home automation experience. Now, at the end of the day, you get home automation with both. One might be more limited. You might get more customization with X10 if you're willing to invest that sort of time. But the majority of the world isn't going to be willing to spend that much time understanding your technology and investing that much time. So SmartThings and other companies out there are becoming successful because they sell an experience, and their technology is built in a way that everything supports that experience. Everything connects on its own. It's very easy to set up, easy to run, easy to use. And so a wider market is going to be able to adopt home automation due to this. So how does this apply to the enterprise? Most of us are really talking about enterprise solutions here. So I think what's so great is that in this case with Internet of Things, the consumer market has already started to prove the value, right? So we have something to look at and understand how this can work. So the consumer industry has shown us that with Internet of Things, we can gather these great amounts of data, and we can add value to human life. We can add value to our users. But at work, things change a little bit. The experience that we're trying to give to employees might be slightly different than the experience that you really are looking for as a consumer. So at work, good user experiences save companies money, they increase productivity, and they improve job satisfaction. Just think about a time that you've had to enter an expense report or enter your time into a time tracking system. And this took, these systems, so many of them are just awful to use, right? They're just really obnoxious. And so you go and you enter your time and it takes forever, or you're trying to import your expenses and it's not working correctly. And this is all wasted time that companies have because it's an awful user experience for those employees. So if you can get these sorts of systems streamlined with good user experiences, it means that your employees can spend their days doing the stuff that they're actually paid to do, the stuff that they're experts at. So as we start to adopt IoT into enterprise solutions, there are some best practices that we should keep in mind. And a lot of this goes back to minimal interaction. And this is sort of the paradox of me talking about user experience for Internet of Things, right? Because really, the core of what I'm saying is to make good user experiences with Internet of Things, don't make user experiences. So it gets sort of interesting. But minimal interaction. Keep the interaction with your user as minimal as possible. One of the things that we love to do as designers and developers and testers is create feedback loops. And we want our feature, our device, anything that we're building to be able to give us feedback so that we can know whether it's working or not. And so we build in things like notifications and beeps, which is great for testing, but it's not always great for our users. So I'll give you an example. I just bought a new dishwasher, and this dishwasher, at the end of its cycle, beeps. And it's a beautiful beep. Somebody really thought about this beep. They designed this beep. It's wonderful. Except that it beeps, and it continues to beep until I go up there and I shut the freaking thing off. Who cares if the dishwasher, do any of you empty your dishwasher the second it's done? No, it's hot, it's steaming. Who cares? Why is it beeping at me? And this beep is so beautiful and silent that I thought it was my phone. I thought it was 10 other devices in my house. I had no idea it was a dishwasher for the first 3 times it did it. So this beep is useless. It might have been useful to them when they were testing it. Oh, dishwasher's done, fantastic. For them, that's fantastic. For me in my house, not good. Not good at all. So really think about, do you need this thing to beep? Do you need it to notify your user? Does your user absolutely need to pay attention to this device at this point in time? Another thing that we can do to help our users is streamline troubleshooting and fix workflows. So it's inevitable. We're going to have errors. Things are going to go wrong. It's technology, right? This happens. It's not a surprise. But what do we do when things go wrong? Alert Me Hive, which is a temperature sensing Internet of Things technology out there, they've actually done some pretty ingenious stuff where they've built in some automated troubleshooting workflows. So when the device goes into error code, the user has already agreed that it can reach out to the company. So that data is then sent to Alert Me. Alert Me then runs that information through an automated workflow on their end, decides whether it's something that they can remotely fix, or if it's something that they need just to send you the device's junk, send you a new device for, or if they need to send out a technician. So they do this all, and then they email you what they're doing to the device. They're transparent. They're telling you what they've decided to do after the fact. They set up a schedule if they're going to send somebody out. But this is all done without just erroring out and saying, whoop, over here, I'm screwed up. Come fix me. It's going out and it's trying to fix the problem for the user. So there are times that we can't do that. We don't know enough. So when we do need user involvement, provide default actions, provide suggestions to the user. You know, if my hot water heater goes into an error code, that's fantastic. Now what? Now I have to go read the manual. Why do I have to go read the manual? Tell me right on the screen. Try restarting it, try doing this, try doing that. You know, we suggest A or whatever it is. Give me some ideas right within the context of the device. And with Internet of Things, it might be you have a sensor, it might be you have something that doesn't actually have a screen. You can't communicate to the user directly. So give the user that information through the device that they interact with. Give it to them, you know, on their tablet, on the mobile phone, whatever it is. And then, you know, the brilliant thing about Internet of Things is that what we're doing with so many of these devices is we're gathering tons and tons of data. And so we should be using this data. We should be using it intelligently to make good decisions for our users. And this isn't a surprise. This is what the Nest is built on, right? This whole concept is what the Nest is. Gather data and then be intelligent and make decisions for people. And they've built a whole product and market around this. But, and they put it right in their marketing, right? The Nest knows you. However, as soon as we start making decisions for users, as soon as we start trying to be intelligent, sometimes we can cross that line where users don't understand what's going on and they get nervous and they don't trust us and they're not sure about it and they might not want to use our device anymore because we've crossed that boundary of what is this machine doing? It knows too much. I don't know. I don't think I should use this thing anymore. So we have to really set expectations. So the Nest does this by a few things. First of all, they tell you the Nest knows you, but it doesn't know you until day 12. It has to learn your schedule. It's not just black magic. You don't just show up with a Nest and it just automatically knows everything about you. So they're setting expectations. They're letting the user know it needs to learn about you, and this is how it does it, and this is how long it takes. They're being transparent about how they're being smart. And they also show transparency through talking about how they learn your schedule and showing you your actual schedule. So most of the time, users won't care, right? Most of the time, the user sees the Nest on the wall, it's at the right temperature, and they go on with their lives, and it doesn't matter. But as soon as they get that twinge, as soon as they go, why is this thing acting this way? Why is it doing something that I don't expect? Do I trust this device? The Nest is being transparent and giving you the information about how they're doing what they're doing, and that makes users comfortable. But one of the problems with a lot of the solutions out there today is that they're solving one problem, and they're doing it through Internet of Things, but they're all siloed stacks. So what if my Nest could talk to my lighting? The Nest has an occupancy sensor, so it knows I'm in the room and it's adjusting the heat. When I leave the room, I have home automation for my lights. Can't it shut off my lights? No, it doesn't talk to that. So this is a real problem for us right now. Right now, because the industry is new and we're still innovating, we're creating lots of proprietary solutions. So we create all these stacks where you have one company or one set of devices that are able to talk to each other, and that is its own little Internet of Things, but it can't talk to that other Internet of Things, which can't talk to that other Internet of Things. So you're not really utilizing the full Internet of Things. You're not really making decisions based on the most amount of information available to you. And so we need to avoid proprietary solutions. We need to move to standards. We need to move to standards that allow us to communicate across stacks and create better experiences for our users by doing this. So at Red Hat, small plug, not shameless. So at Red Hat, we are standing behind a lot of open standards right now, and we're really excited about these standards. So we're talking about MQTT, ActiveMQ. We're participating in these upstream communities, and we have a lot of products, especially MQ, Fuse, and BRMS, that are looking at how to utilize these technologies and open up the Internet of Things so that you really can do this. You really can communicate across stacks and create those integrated and open systems. So we've talked about what is Internet of Things, and we've talked about what that means to the users now. But how do you do this? How do you actually go about creating a good experience? Well, the first thing is pretty basic, and I think this is going to be pretty familiar to everybody. If you've worked in Agile, this is nothing new. Start with user stories. As a user type, I want features so that I can do whatever. This is the basic behind Agile development, and this has absolutely nothing to do with Internet of Things. This is just getting you thinking about what is the user goal, what is the user problem that we're actually trying to solve here. And you can solve it through a solution with Internet of Things. You can solve it through a solution that has nothing to do with Internet of Things. But if you don't start here, you're potentially creating solutions that actually don't accomplish anything that somebody needs. So then the next step is that we need to understand the flow across devices. And this is where this becomes a much bigger focus. You can do this with, for regular software projects. This is also not new. This is a user experience, kind of basic. But this becomes truly important when we're thinking about Internet of Things, because we're talking about data and users crossing so many devices. And so understanding the flow across those devices is really important If you don't do this, there's huge, huge, huge potential for you to drop the users somewhere along the way and for them to get totally lost and confused. And so here we have an example of a track engineer, and that we talk about, it starts with the data, right? The user isn't even involved in the beginning. We're just talking about, data is gathered, a sensor goes off, information is sent to a back-end system, that makes some decisions about what it's going to do. Then that finally, third thing over, we're finally starting to talk to the engineer and communicate with the engineer in this flow. But understanding how your data crosses across all these devices and when the user really does need to interact with it is important so that you create a solution that is holistic and works for your users in the minimal impact as possible. So in some cases, you might want to extend beyond this and actually think about a full customer experience flow. And this is, we'll talk about this a little bit more later as well, but customer experience flows take that task flow of where the data and what the users are interacting with and overlay it with actual emotion and information about how the user feels during this process. And this can really help you identify where you might have some gaps in your user experience and areas where we might be kind of leaving the user up in the air and they're not quite sure what to do or frustrating them, et cetera. So if you are going to be designing an Internet of Things solution, there's definitely, I would always advocate for bringing in some UX people, but there's different UX expertise areas, and so I wanted you to know kind of some of the terminology and the names behind these and who these people are and what they do, so that you know kind of what you might need to reach out for. So one area of UX expertise is the UI design. And this is basically software design. It's anything with screens. So, mobile front ends, tablets, web consoles, et cetera. So UI designers are going to be experts at creating, understanding what the user tasks and flows, and then creating the user interfaces in these devices that interact with those users at the right time in the right way. Industrial design, these people are experts in hardware and ergonomic design. So they're going to take care of things that are tactile that you need to design in the actual 3D world. And customer experience experts, as we saw a minute ago in that diagram, customer experience is really understanding from the moment of adoption or even the moment of thinking about using something through to the end, either purchase or retirement or whatever your life cycle looks like. How does the user experience this flow, and are we achieving a good flow so that users stay with us? So how do I know if we're doing this well? Well, as I said in the beginning, Internet of Things, especially in the enterprise, is still a new paradigm. We're going to have to, maintain a little bit of a sense of humor. We're going to have to learn as we go here. This is still new. But once again, we can fall back to basic user experience principles and practices. Gather data. Gather data about usage. And then be ready to change quickly. Be agile and ready to understand what that data means and change your designs and change your solutions drastically based on the information you're getting from your users. And so collecting data on usage, there's some easy ways to do this with Internet of Things. The first one, for anything that is a software-based system, where you have a web console, a tablet, a phone, et cetera, gather the drop-off points. You can do this easily through things like Google Analytics. Drop-off points can tell you a couple of different things. Drop-off points can tell you maybe along that flow where people are getting lost and leaving because they're giving up. It can tell you where you're using, what features users are using, or what features they're not using. And sometimes drop-off points can tell you that you haven't designed the system in a way that actually allows them to reach the features that you're hoping they can reach. It can tell you that you're completely missing your audience. So with Internet of Things and all these different devices, you also want to know which devices are getting input. A lot of times we'll do duplicate behavior in this environment. So you might have a hardware device on the wall or whatever it is that actually allows for input, but you can do that same input through a tablet or phone, just as flexibility for the user. And so if you start doing things like that, definitely track which devices are getting the input. Understand where the experience is best for your users so that you can kind of double down and focus on that experience. And then what we've already talked about, which features are being used. This goes back into what should you spend more time developing, where should you put your efforts, or what are features that are completely getting missed by users and they might not even see, and maybe you need to redesign a flow or a screen or a device so that they even understand that that feature exists. And this is so common. We put in tons of features into our products and then people only use 20% of them, right? So which 20% are they using? Are they the 20% that you think is most important? If not, how can you raise the visibility of the 20% that you think is important? And then ask for feedback during various stages of the journey. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this. Asking for feedback can be done well, and it can be done really, really badly. I'm sure you've all gone to websites that pop up that super annoying pop-up that's like, hey, you haven't done anything on our website yet, but come take this survey and tell us how great we're doing. What? I haven't even started doing anything. How can I tell you anything at all? So we have to be very careful about how we gather information from users in this way, but if you do it well, it can be really, really valuable. And so I would highly suggest if you're gonna start gathering information about the journey and the flow of your users throughout their experience, first of all, keep it simple. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Smiley faces, something that doesn't take a ton of investment. You'll still learn a ton, and you can, if you see areas that are not so good, like here you see in the middle of the flow, we have somebody kind of moving into, not quite sure what's going on here, might give up soon. That's enough for you to actually then go dig deeper in that one little area, rather than kind of annihilating your users with all of these questions about the whole experience. And so there's actually a really interesting example of this. One of the airlines was trying to gather information about how the airport check-in experience and check-in journey was for their users. And so they actually put hardware kiosks throughout the airport that users could just punch by as they go. So they had a happy face and a sad face, and when you came into the airport, you hit one. When you checked in your baggage and got your ticket, you hit one. When you went through the security line, you could hit one. Once you got to your terminal, et cetera, et cetera. And this was very low investment, right? It doesn't take that long. You just hit a button. It's actually kind of fun. It's a little innovative. It's something that users kind of chuckle at, maybe. So you're getting feedback, which is extremely valuable to you, but you're actually engaging your users. You're making it fun for them. So if you're going to gather information during the customer journey, think of ways to do it that are engaging, and don't turn your users off like those awful surveys do. All right. So in summary, the biggest message is IoT really leads us into a place where we have tons and tons of devices, and with tons and tons of devices, we have limited user time. Our users aren't going to be able to pay attention to every device in their life at all times. So more devices equals less time. With that in mind, really, really think about how you're designing your experience. Really think about when you need to reach out to your user and how you reach out to your user in ways that reduces the amount of time that they need to spend with your solution. And then measure and improve along the way, because that's the only way we're going to really learn what works and what doesn't work for the Internet of Things, especially as we move into the enterprise and use this in ways that we probably haven't tried before. So before I wrap up, I have 2 other plugs. So first of all, as part of the user experience design team, we've been working hard on Patternfly, and we're very excited to be talking about that a lot here at DevNation. So please take a moment to go to our Patternfly booth tomorrow and Thursday. We'll be giving away free t-shirts, and we'll also be raffling off a Pebble watch. Patternfly is a UI design library that you can use that sits on top of Bootstrap and is made for enterprises. So it adds additional functionality for you as a developer to create beautiful user interfaces for enterprise use. And also, we are working on improving our own products, and so we're trying to gather feedback and information as well about our own products. If you want to come down to the customer experience room, which is right across from registration on the first floor, we're doing usability tests on a ton of our products across Red Hat, and we're really interested in gathering user feedback on those so that we can continue to measure and improve. So that's what I had for today. Thank you very much for attending, and I'll take any questions.